I don't think people really understand that this thing really gave you permission to be and do things you wouldn't do at home. I mean, and whether that's buying some crazy, bottle of champagne or some insane dinner or whatever. I mean, kind of everything shot up, after that because you had this kind of extra permission that you didn't have before. And the other thing is, one of the reasons it happened is you really talk to people and what their fantasies are. Everyone had a different fantasy about what they were going to be in Vegas and what they were going to do or what they were, what their end goal was. So how do you put that in an ad? You can't put everybody's fantasy in an ad. It's not possible. So that kind of led us down to that world of let them imagine it.
Welcome to We Built This Brand, where we talk to the creators and collaborators behind your favorite brands. It has been said that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and today I get to find out exactly why that is. You see, in this episode, I'm talking with Arnie DiGeorge, Executive Vice President at R&R Partners, and one of the key people involved in the famous What Happens in Vegas campaign. We'll walk through how Arnie found his way into R&R Partners and how this famous campaign got its start, as well as the long-lasting impacts it's had on the city of Las Vegas. So join me now as we cruise down the Vegas Strip and into my conversation with Arnie DiGeorge. Arnie, welcome to We Built This Brand.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to have you with us today to talk about the great city of Las Vegas and all of your work at R&R over the years. And there's just a lot to get into today. I'm actually really excited about this because I've been to Vegas just a handful of times, but I love the city. It's a fun place to come visit. And just there's a lot. So typically how we start these off is I like to get to know you a little bit better, a little bit about your background. So if you don't mind, just doesn't have to be in depth, but where did you get your start? And how did you find your way to R&R to begin with?
So I have a really weird way into advertising, where most people go to the big, the book schools and all that stuff, portfolio centers. I started with a background of journalism / advertising, which they had back in the day in Reno, Nevada. And then I went to work at a very, very small office with 5 people in it. And so I ended up, I thought I was going to be creative. I ended up doing everything. I mean, I was an account executive at times. I was a runner. I wrote, I laid stuff out with the big camera and everything. I even bought rudimentary media somehow. I mean, did everything you could do, which was great. I learned a lot about the business and everything. And then I went to work for a place that was going after New York, not New York, the city, New York, the hotel. It's here in Las Vegas at the time was opening, and we tried to get that account. We were pitching the account. I remember driving around in my Volkswagen Jetta with a Statue of Liberty impersonator in the car. No, number one Statue of Liberty impersonator in the world. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you get that title.
I don't either. I've been to New York City and seen the impersonators, though. Was it someone like that?
Yeah, it was supposedly the best one. We found the best one.
That's awesome.
And I had to drive her around for the day and try and help her with her lines, which she failed miserably. We did not get it.
Oh.
And don't say oh. It was probably the best thing ever happened to me. But and so the art director at the time came over here to R&R Partners to try and get a job after the agency had failed and they shut down. And he didn't get the job. They didn't like his art direction, but they liked the writing. And that's how I got the job 29 years ago. And then I just worked really hard after that and ended up running the creative department at some point.
That's exciting. So you've been with R&R for quite a while.
Yeah, around 29 years, I think. I get these notices every once in a while, and I think the last one said 29 years.
That's awesome. So coming up on a big one there. 30 coming up, but that's exciting. So you've done a lot in your career, I would imagine, working with R&R. Looks like, from everything I've seen of them, they've been around a while. How long has R&R been around, by the way?
50 years. We just had our 50-year anniversary, and this is the 50th year. And so it's been pretty exciting. We did a lot of celebrating and a lot of talking about the past and a lot of talking about the future. So, yeah.
Nice. And what does R&R stand for, by the way?
Yeah, that's a question that everyone has been trying to answer, even the people who started it. There was one guy who started long ago named Sig Rogich, and so he was one of the R's, and nobody could understand the other R. It's funny because we have a wall somewhere in the place that just goes over rest and relaxation, rowdy, and this, and all the different things you can be R&R, because it's still sort of a weird mystery as to what it is. And I think somebody might have told me the real story at some point, but I've since forgotten it. I think I like the fact that it could be anything.
Yeah, it allows you to put your own vision of what it could be. And with you all doing a lot of, looks like, travel and resorts and things like that, like it fits for the industry that I see you all interacting in a lot. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah. So it could be anything.
Anything that starts with an R.
Yes. Anything that starts with an R and an R. But that's awesome. So then moving on to the city. So y'all are based in Las Vegas. And I know you've had a lot of experience with Vegas. Part of the reason why Vegas is exciting to me and fun to me, outside of just the fun of, coming to Las Vegas and experiencing shows and things like that, which, fun side note, I have never been to Las Vegas for fun. It's always been for work, always been for business, meetings, conferences, things like that. But still manages to be a really cool experience. And I've really enjoyed, like I said, the time I've had there, but also where I live is back in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we're right next to the Great Smoky Mountains. And so we're next to another very big touristy area. A lot of the same flashiness and, at times gaudiness and, just a lot of the same similarities I think there kind of apply. I think at one time, one of the bragging points to Gatlinburg, Tennessee was we were number 2 per capita for wedding chapels behind Las Vegas. So, we've had a lot of similarities in that respect over the years. So and I've learned a lot over the years about the branding of this area and things like that. So to learn about Vegas and learn about the branding and how that came about, I think it'd be really fascinating to talk about today. And so that's what I'm excited to dive into with you and to learn more about. So how did the Las Vegas project start? Let's just start there.
So I think the really really fun stuff started when we started with the positioning of adult freedom, and we worked from there. And one of the early campaigns, even before What Happens Here Stays Here, was all based on freedom. We had an ad called Freedom from the Man and Freedom from Reality, and a few ads like that were really really nice pieces. And we thought we were going to go down that direction, and then something happened. I think 9/11 happened, or something, something else that disrupts you, and we're very much like when something like that happens, we kind of stop everything, because we know people don't really want to live the advertising world. They want a more comfortable world. So we do something different, and that made us basically kind of take a look at it again, and then we started going down the road of What Happens Here Stays Here, and so it, for us, was a very good thing, because What Happens Here Stays Here allowed you to do things that no other tourism campaign had ever done by a wide margin. And we can get into that. It basically allowed you to not show the destination. It allowed you to use your imagination as to what your experience was going to be. What Happens Here stays here. We didn't tell you what happens.
Right.
So you could be, what happens to you could be anything you can come up with in your head. And so that was the magic of that campaign in the beginning. And eventually we started to show some of the destination. And when we did, it was great, because then we showed it in a way that showed the kind of tricks and games and fun you could have being somebody else, or doing something you couldn't do at home. And so we expanded it down the line. And, we made it last for a long time by really, really kind of just bringing it along, pretty much as far as we could bring it.
Yeah. So a place where you can achieve what you want to achieve, or do that crazy thing you've always wanted to do, which has been perpetuated by Hollywood and culture just over the years too. I mean, What Happens Here Stays Here is ubiquitous with the city now. That's what I think of when I think of Vegas.
Well, it's in, even before we kind of took ownership of it. It was in people's heads as far as traveling went. What happens on the road stays on the road. We just knew that it was perfect, that it was a perfect truth for us, and truth's super important in advertising, because you got to get in there and inside people and everything. And so they bought into that because they knew it anyways, and they knew that there was no better place than Vegas for that. So that's how it really, really took off, and it became part of what everybody thinks about Vegas, and part of the city, and part of the culture, which is pretty incredible.
You mentioned getting inside of people's heads. Tell me more about that. Like, what was that approach like to come up with this slogan?
Well, I believe, and we have two writers came up with the actual slogan that were working for us at the time, and they wouldn't say which one actually came up with it. So that was the best part. They kept it. But
what happens in the writer's room stays in the writer's room, right?
Yes, exactly. I think that if you don't have some truth, some universal truth inside what you're doing, people are not going to relate to it, and it's not going to catch on with them. I think most of marketing and advertising, if it doesn't have that, in its positioning and doesn't have that in its communication, it's really not going to work. And because you need to grab the emotions of people. I mean, grab the emotion, the most important thing you can do, even if sometimes those emotions, are crazy. Where they're like going, "Why did you do that?" Sometimes that's great, because then you get to explain yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember, I'll tell you an ad I did very, very, very early on. Did an ad for a community college. It was a billboard. It had an arrow pointing at the community college and an arrow pointing at the McDonald's across the street. And the arrow pointing at the community college, or the arrow pointing at the at McDonald's, said million burgers served, whatever that line was they had at the time. And then the arrow pointing at the community college was how to avoid a life of serving them. But there was a crazy outcry from people who worked at McDonald's and lawyers at McDonald's and everything else, which was great. You want that.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, the agency was like, "Do we want that?" But then they found out they really did want it. It ended up in Time magazine and everything else. So, I mean, I think that grabbing people's emotions is kind of the most important thing, really. I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people about this, and they say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, emotion is always something key when you're talking about, trying to get someone to make a purchase, make a decision, just attract attention to you. You want emotion. I mean, art is emotion. So you want that. I think that's important to have as part of what you're doing with the creative sphere anymore. With where we're at today, a lot of it can be just odd, weird, just attracts your attention in some strange way, even as we're finding now. But yeah, I like the that cleverness to what you're saying with the college piece and everything. I think that's really fascinating. So you did that. You got that emotion. What was the reaction when you first pitched this to the city? Because I'm sure that was probably a bit edgy at the time to even bring to the city, even though it is Vegas.
It was very edgy, and the great thing about our agency is we are not just advertising. We have a government affairs division, and we have PR division, and we have all of these community relations people and everything else. So we really knew it was going to be that way. So we did the work behind the scenes. You know what I mean? We would. I mean, the LVCVA is all the hotels on the Strip, and there's a big they're a commission, and they are a board, and they all kind of decide these things. And so we went from person to person to person, and did the behind the scenes work, and did the testing and everything else to get it through. We didn't just go in and go, "Hey, what do you think?" Because it probably wouldn't have gone well.
So you took time, you worked through the right people, you got it approved little by little, and then finally got it all signed off on.
Yeah, it's the same thing that we do with a lot of the stuff. I mean, it's the same thing we got the way we got the help get Allegiant on and get the Raiders and everything else. I mean, all of those things require a whole community and votes and all of this kind of stuff. And so, we go out and bring those stakeholders together, and that's what other agencies really have a hard time doing if they can even try it.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point because stakeholders are very important when you're thinking about marketing and branding anything. If you just come up with a fun idea, it might be fun and clever and edgy, but it may not, it may not resonate with them. It may not be a fit, right?
Well, yeah, and as you know, from most of if you go all the way back to Apple's Brave New World ad, and if you saw the testing for that and how that went over and everything else, it's like a lot of times the really really big ideas people don't realize them because they're ahead of their time, and so they're very hard to grab onto until they're out there. And then when they're out there, you see, oh my, we really were onto something, but all of our inner guts as managers of these things and protectors said, don't do that. And so it's tough, because you want to get something out there that really grabs them and really sets it in motion. But sometimes that's a scary thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Was there anybody out there that was opposed to you all running this slogan?
Oh, I'm sure there were.
Not by name, of course, but
I'm sure there were. I can't. It's been a long time, but I know there were some voices that were that wondered, and hey, we wondered. We liked it, but we wanted to go out there and talk to people about it. And I think we talked to a lot of people about this before we went forward with it, because we wanted to make sure we weren't making some mistake. But we did the work, and it worked.
Going back to something you said earlier, because I'm thinking now about like the initial launch of the campaign, getting it out there, spreading it. You said you really focused on the people and not the place. What benefit to that? I mean, I can understand the benefit of that, but like what other benefits did that have, like maybe from a production perspective or a creative perspective on the initial ads that you came out with?
I think later on, when you're really trying to shoot the town, you see how much better that was, because you get in a studio, with a couple of actors, and you're done, and then when you go out and you try and shoot something in town, you have to have all the extras, and you have to shoot in all the different locations and everything, and it's a lot tougher. So production wise, it was great. I think the other thing is, though, I don't think people really understand that this thing really gave you permission to be and do things you wouldn't do at home. I mean, and whether that's buying some crazy, bottle of champagne or some insane dinner or whatever. I mean, kind of everything shot up, after that, because you had this kind of extra permission that you didn't have before. And the other thing is, one of the reasons it happened is you really talk to people and what their fantasies are. Everyone had a different fantasy about what they were going to be in Vegas and what they were going to do, or what they were, what their end goal was. So how do you put that in an ad? You can't put everybody's fantasy in an ad. It's not possible. So that kind of led us down to that world of let them imagine it, and set it up in a way that they can.
Yeah. Yeah. Allow them to put themselves in that position and think about what it could be that they do when they come.
Want to launch a podcast without the hassle? HumblePod makes podcasting easy. From concept to launch, we'll help you create a professional, engaging show. Already have a podcast? We handle editing, show notes, transcriptions, and even video production, so you can focus on your content. With our tailored services, you get high-quality production, seamless publishing, and expert support at every step. Whether you're starting fresh or leveling up, HumblePod ensures your podcast sounds amazing and reaches the right audience. Visit HumblePod.com to get started today.
And then as it's grown over time, so like what did that mean for the city? I mean, obviously this comes out, it was a great campaign. I mean, everybody remembers it. So like what maybe what was the city's response? Were you able to track any ROI for the city on the campaign? How did that work?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's numerous studies that we've done and people have done it. It really not only, brought in visitors, but again, it helped with spending and everything else, and it helped with ADR and the whole thing. ADR is average daily rate of that they pay in the hotels, and so for a long time it did incredibly well for the city, and I believe it was a precursor to everything that is now happening to the city with the sports scene and everything else. It allowed us to open everything up. You know what I mean? It's like so many people knew about, the tagline in the city and what you could do here. And it just, set the imagination free as to what this city could become.
You mentioned the sports scene. One of my first trip to Vegas was actually with the National Sports Forum. And that was like a great primer for Vegas because I actually got to see the Las Vegas Knights ring, the ice hockey ring. They were talking, this was right before the Raiders came in. So they were talking about the Raiders coming. They were talking about the branding for that, the marketing for that. I got to see the Speedway. We got to see a lot of the sports stuff in town. And I didn't realize how big sports really were to Vegas at the time. I'd always thought of it more as okay, you come here for vacation. You come here to, see shows or, gamble or live your wildest fear and loathing in Las Vegas fantasy out, whatever it may be, adventures in Vegas. I mean, love cars, love things like that. Like my dream Vegas vacation is like coming there and seeing Formula One and seeing the Vegas race, because that is something that people were real skeptical about at first. And it just turned into this, like, it's become one of the best races of the season. And so I'm, big F1 fan. So that for me is probably the biggest thing, but just getting to be there, be around the city itself. It's just a fascinating place. Easy to get lost. And I learned that the hard way too in my time there. But can't say enough about that, but yeah, drug fueled, not so much.
For some reason, I didn't think so, Chris, but I had to ask.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
So you could see just from your fantasy of Las Vegas, you could see how hard it is to put things in an ad for everybody's fantasy. I mean, you got your own thing that you want to do, and everybody's got their own thing that they want to do, and sometimes it's sitting at the slot machine until 4 a.m. and other times it's, I want to be at the F1 race and then I want to go out to the track and drive my own car around the track, that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Last time I was in Vegas, we did get to go out to one of those places where they have like I think we were in a Dodge Hellcat and we did drifting around a track and things like that as part of our project. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Vegas is you can do a lot there. Like you said, I mean, that's the whole point of your ads. And I think it, really proves true in a lot of respects. So that's cool. So as we move our way into the future, I think that's a good tie-in because, we're talking about sports and things like that. And it looks like the newest campaign you all have is Las Vegas Go All Out. Tell me about the evolution.
Yeah. So I think, again, showing all of the sports and showing all of all of that stuff is a lot tougher, and it doesn't really give you the feeling of emotion from the fans. You know what I mean? And in Vegas, because you can be a little bit more than you can be anywhere else, we just took that to the next level. You know what I mean? It's like you get to see how the fans really react when they're in a city that is this, freeing and this open, that they do go all out, and it gets even a little bit more crazy than it would at another stadium. And so I think that's the point of the ad. And a lot of the stuff we do just basically shows how we amplify that experience. We amplify the sports experience. We amplify the restaurant experience, the chef experience. We basically kind of amplify everything. And so,
yeah, I've had the good fortune to go to a Wolfgang Puck restaurant there, and man, incredible.
You got it. It was amplified. You felt the amplification of it.
Oh yeah. I even got the smoked whiskey with, like, they bring it out and they actually smoke it for you, and the wood that they use is from the barrel that the whiskey was originally in, and it was just insane. It's insane. But yeah, that was a great experience. But yeah, I noticed that amplification too, and the sports thing particularly struck home to me because last time I was in Vegas, there was I think it was near the NFL playoffs. It was in November, and there was like Kansas City there playing the Raiders. And I just remember going through the airport, like leaving and coming. It was people in Kansas City gear and, and in Raiders gear and stuff like that. And
Did you go to the game?
I did not. No, I was there for a conference, unfortunately. So I was there for the Amazon reInvent conference, which in itself is a like wild world of an experience. Just with how big and how many people are there and how much money just goes into turning basically Las Vegas into an Amazon billboard and tech billboards for that time period. But yeah, it was. But the crazy thing was like that ad felt very much like the experience I had going to and from the hotel of just seeing the fans and stuff there. I was like, oh yeah, I've been there. That's Vegas. This fits the bill.
Well, if you went to the game, you'd probably see a more Kansas City fans than you would think you would see at a Raider game. You know what I mean? That's the kind of the difference in Vegas is that the fans, that a lot of the fans are from the other team because they want to come and see the game here, and so it's a super interesting experience. Yeah,
it's a spectacle. It truly is.
Yeah, spectacles, exactly what we call it a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, this campaign has had huge influence over the years, and yeah, I've just found it fascinating. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me about that today. I think there's a lot there. Is there anything else from the campaign over the years where you're like, hey, this was my favorite part, or this is one thing that I think has been one of the biggest, most impactful things for me during this time?
So one of the things we didn't talk about is that Vegas is has gone through some really tough times too. We had the 1 October shooting, and we had the pandemic where the whole town closed down and everything. And our R&R is intimately involved in all that stuff. During the 1 October shooting, we kind of became a control room for what was going on message wise in the city and logistics and a lot of different things. Same thing for when the pandemic was going on. And so, we take a big part in that stuff. And so I remember another thing about the emotions, like I love it when, we do the shock emotion and those that really drive you that way. But I also, we did a lot of emotional stuff during 1 October. With Andre Agassi and a kind of a manifesto about Vegas Strong that went out and everything else. And so we go both sides of the thing here in protecting the city. And so a lot of people don't realize really what goes into keeping this whole thing going.
Yeah. Cause it's more than, I can imagine it's more than like, you all are doing more than just always being fun and happy, right? Like there are some serious parts to R&R where it's like, hey, we have a relationship to maintain with the city, and we're helping them communicate to their, I would say constituents. That's not the right word. Citizens.
Well, the city has a voice. The visitors, the people that live here. All of the sports things that we've done, we've needed to bring in the stakeholders. We've needed to work with all of the people in the city, but we've also needed to get the messaging out to people. We've needed to get votes. We need to do all that stuff. And so, we're constantly doing that kind of stuff. So, and whenever something goes wrong, we're doing crisis management. And so, we're doing a lot behind the scenes besides just the marketing advertising part, which is the fun part that everybody sees. What goes on behind the scenes with our client and everything else is a whole different story. Although I will say, ask anybody around here, I'm super happy all the
time. That's good. Yeah, but you still have to have those serious moments from time to time. I get that. Yeah. That's neat. So what about the future? What's the future for Vegas? Is there anything that you see coming that you all are doing that you're like, hey, this is really exciting and I can let you in on it, or it's okay if not, but just curious.
So, we do have a new campaign that's going to come out soon. And it's not, based in what happens to your state. So I can't tell you what it's based in, but it promises to be super fun, cool campaign that we're going to do. We just had Vegas's 120th, birthday party.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that we talk about in it is that Vegas is really not even close to reaching its potential. I mean, this is this kind of city. So who knows, what's next? I mean, I probably shouldn't even tell the story, but I'm going to tell it. I don't care. So on April Fool's, a few years ago, we were going to put out this website and this piece that said that a hotel was going to be built here called the Subterranean, and that it was going to be built underground, so many miles close to the magma of the earth, where you would have a magma spa and all this stuff, right? And so we thought this was really fun for April Fools. But there were people who said, yeah, no, I mean, not only will it be believable, maybe somebody's already planning it. That's this city. You can barely even do an April Fool's on this city because you never know what they're going to do or what they're going to try or what plans are in the hopper, which is pretty fantastic.
Well, I mean, I could see underground working well for a city like Las Vegas, where it's so hot all the time, and
See, you're already totally, completely believing it. You would have bought right into it.
I know. I would have bought it hook, line, and sinker. That's great. That's exciting. Well, yeah, that's fascinating. So I can't wait for that to come out. When will we be seeing that get released? Do you have any idea, just so listeners, viewers can know?
I don't know the exact date, but soon, very soon.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, Arnie, thank you for your time today. This has been really cool just to dive into Vegas and learn more about it. As we wrap up, I always like to ask the question, what brand do you admire the most right now? And be curious to get your input on that.
So you're gonna find this weird, but my favorite brand right now is Nathan Fielder.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I've been watching. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you watched the latest version of The Rehearsal?
Yes, I've seen every episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's trying to help stop plane crashes by bringing pilots and their co-pilots together in the weirdest, most entertaining, most sometimes cringe-worthy, roundabout, insane way. But it's the most creative thing I've seen in a long, long time. And his brand has been that way and building to this moment. So he's my favorite brand in the world right now. I just have not seen anything that creative in a long time.
Yeah, he is definitely he's definitely fascinating to me, because like I've been spending time like digging into it on Reddit, because I'm like, how much of this is real? How much of this is fake? What do people think? What do people observe? And it's like it almost doesn't matter. Like you should really just throw out any just assumption of it being like, oh, these people are 100% real or these people are fake, and just live in the moment and enjoy the story, because it's you're right, it's cringeworthy, but it's also like at times like laugh out loud funny in tears. So yeah, the Rehearsal is what it's called. The Rehearsal has just been fantastic. I would agree, that's a great brand.
His brand in general, though, if you watch his arc and where he started and everything else and how he ended up there is pretty amazing. I mean, he really hasn't done any backtracking. You know what I mean? He's moving forward, and I don't know where he's going next. I like to look at Vegas that way, that we're always kind of moving forward. You never know where we're going to end up, and he's very much that brand.
Yeah. Well, it's what makes him fascinating, and I think it's fair to call him a brand, because one of the refrains I see often on my research on the internet is, Nathan is Nathan. He's not going to change. That's the thing you have to understand about him. And once you get that, you can get the jokes a little bit better, and why he always kind of makes himself the butt of the joke by the end of the series. Yeah, and it's fun to see people get riled up about it too, because he does some edgy stuff.
Yes, he does. I mean, the giant. Yeah, let's not get into it. But the episode where he's
the Sully episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I laughed so hard at that.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah,
it's the best.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's doing a great job, and Yeah, it's a fun show. Yeah. So awesome. Well, cool. Well, Nathan Fielder is definitely on the list. For those who haven't seen it, should definitely check it out. I mean, it's like, it's every, I guess is what's coming in the back of my head is like, he's literally like every marketer's like worst impulse, and he just does it. It's like, if you've ever had a bad idea and you want to pitch it and see it happen, he's done it, and brought it to life. And I love that about him.
This whole thing of building this fake world that he builds is just amazing, with this blank paycheck from HBO, where he builds the whole airport and he builds the community and he builds everything. It's just like, and you don't know what you're watching. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I like the way he put it. He said, "I've got a blank check as long as I don't go over budget."
Yes, yeah.
It's so good. So good. But yeah, people should definitely check that out. That's a good one. All right. Well, where can people connect with you? Where can people learn more about R&R if they want to get more information on your agency?
They can go to the webpage. They can contact me on LinkedIn. They can, yeah, and I'll send them to the right person if I can't answer their questions, which is often the case.
Well, that's great. Well, Arnie, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure talking to you today. Let me say that again. Got my words a little mixed up there. All right, Arnie. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thanks for checking out this episode of We Built This Brand. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your player of choice. You can also keep up with the podcast on WeBuiltThisBrand.com. If you like this episode, please give the podcast a 5-star review and make sure to tell all your friends about it so we can continue to build this brand.